All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. Sorry for the small delay there. Thanks everyone for being here today. This is the session called Changing Perception of Higher Education. I'm your host. Vanessa Miller. I'm a reporter with the Gazette. I've been covering the higher education beat for like 11 years now, and I've been with the Gazette for since 2011. And so I just want to start this session by thanking our sponsor, ITC Midwest. I also want to let everyone know that if you have questions throughout this session, feel free to send those along to our moderator, and that person will send them to me, and then I can pose them to our panelists in real time if you have something that you kind of want to hit on right as the discussion's happening. So feel free to do that. And I think I'll start by just having our panelists introduce themselves and share a little bit about, how they got into higher education and where they're situated in that space. So do you want to start, President Olson?
I'd be happy to, Vanessa. Good morning, everyone. Todd Olson. I serve as president at Mount Mercy University in Cedar Rapids. I'm just starting my fourth year at Mount Mercy, but my 38th year in higher education, worked at universities in 5 states. I still am just fascinated by the opportunity to work on campus, to work with students, to be a part of what I think is a very optimistic and very dynamic field. So really pleased to be part of the panel this morning.
Great. And then, President Denson.
Yes, I'm Rob Denson, president of Des Moines Area Community College. I'm the fourth president of DMAC in 58 years, but I'm the first native-born Iowan, something I'm very proud of. DMAC serves about 36,000 credit students, 18,000 non-credit students every year with about 220 programs, and we're one of the 15 Iowa community colleges.
Awesome. And then we have Christy Black with Kirkwood.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Christy Black. I'm the Executive Dean of K-12 Partnership Programs at Kirkwood. I have worked at the college just right around 30 years, and throughout that time, I've worked in a lot of different facets of the college, but most recently, I've worked closely with our partnership programs with the area school districts, so programs around concurrent enrollment, workplace learning connection, and things like that. So happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, thanks. Yeah, thanks again for you guys being here and for all the participants. Part of what got us interested in making this a session and talking about it is there's been these polls that have come out. There's obviously been real-time effects that people have seen about the changing perception of higher education. So a Gallup poll just in July reported that the percent of people who were responding to the poll who said they had a great deal or quite a lot of confidence in higher education decreased from 57% back in 2015 down to 36% in 2024. And so this and other things made us kind of want to jump into this space and talk a little bit about it. And I'm wondering if you guys could start by just telling us whether that is something that you have experienced on your campuses or that you do see happening across the higher education landscape.
Right. Well, Vanessa, I'm happy to start off on that one. And what I would say is we certainly see a number of questions at Mount Mercy about the value of a college degree. What does this lead to? Where does this going to take me? Or for parents, where is this going to take my daughter or my son? I think that we are, for the most part, very able to answer in a convincing way. And so we have not seen sort of a large erosion in confidence individually on our campus. But it certainly is a time when parents and students are asking more questions and sort of sharpening their understanding of what it is they're getting into here. I think that's a change from some earlier times when there was just a broader understanding that, college is always worth it, always a good idea, et cetera. And so we have seen, sort of wiser consumers. I think the constellation of things that's happened over the last few years, including COVID, has certainly eroded the numbers in higher education. We know that all of us are still recovering from that, seeing some good news with rising enrollment for the first time. But it is, with all these factors noted, it's certainly a challenging time across higher education.
Yeah, and I also think COVID threw a big wrench in a lot of things. We see so many kids coming out of high school that did not have a great last 2 or 3 years of high school because of COVID, dealing with online. So I think that's been a challenge. All the data and reports that we see continue to say that as far as increased lifetime earnings, getting a 2, 4 year or an advanced degree pays, and it pays big time. It's just a matter of convincing people to take the time to get those degrees. Yeah, and I think a lot of this discussion too was triggered by kind of the political fight over debt forgiveness. I mean, and no matter what side you're on, I think I've never seen parents so conscious of cost and understanding the fact that some of the student debt hardly ever goes away. So I think, as we look at Iowa high school graduates, right, as the last data from the Iowa Department of Education, 42.3% of Iowa high school graduates are not going on to college. That is, that's first of all, being an Iowan where we always value education and higher education, that's an embarrassingly high number. But I think that financing, COVID, and everything else has just made people question the additional work and time it would take to get a degree. And because businesses need workers so badly, we're seeing more and more business trying to entice students at earlier times throughout their career to come to work and actually learn on the job. So I think there are just a lot of factors, but it doesn't take away from the fact that it pays to get an advanced degree.
Yeah, and Vanessa, what I would add, in addition to what's already been stated, is, what I'm seeing is that higher ed doesn't necessarily just fall on 2-year, 4-year degrees. There's such a broad spectrum now of training options, post-secondary. We're seeing an insurgence of non-credit certifications through like our continuing education division, as well as credit certifications. And so I think that there's definitely the sense is there's still value, but it's different. And in order for higher ed to continue to be a viable option, we need to meet people where they're at. We need to make sure folks have multiple on and off ramps. And so that's kind of what we're seeing at our institution a lot is making sure that there is a variety of options that work best for what the students' needs are, specifically as it relates to what their career or what their next steps are.
Yeah. And you guys kind of addressed this a little bit, but I'm wondering if we can dial down a little bit more about what that change, what any sort of change in perception might actually mean for the students. Like, how is that manifesting? Are they like wanting more assurances? Are they needing more aid? Are they wanting more flexibility in terms of degree pathways and options? Or what does that actually look like for students?
Vanessa, I'd throw in a couple of points there. First of all, we know for students that those financial questions are very much top of mind. We know this is with the great value, as Rob said, noted. We know it can be a stretch for students. I'd also note that in addition to finances, students are concerned, and this is borne out by a recent Lumina Gallup State of Higher Education poll, that right behind financial considerations are emotional stress and mental health issues. And so there are things that our students are facing, and some of this is post-pandemic impacts. Some of it has certainly existed before that. But that's another challenge for higher education, is to see that we're supporting our students. Different students need very different levels of support. But that's something we've got to be attentive to during this time, in addition to making sure that what we're offering is as affordable as it can be. I want to note at Mount Mercy, we have a variety of scholarship programs aimed at assuring that affordability. And we also offer students a great path to complete their degree in 4 years, or in some cases, even less than that. So we're trying to be attentive to this balancing act between providing academic quality and depth that really prepares students well, and seeing that we're delivering that experience and that education as efficiently as we can. I know our colleagues are focused on that as well, but I just wanted to mention that point.
Yeah. I mean, for the community colleges, do you find that students are looking for different pathways, or different degree programs, or yeah, like are I guess is the workforce sort of driving this change in perception, or this change in sort of needs among the students?
Well, I'm going to go back to what Todd said. We're seeing more and more students uh, accessing our counseling centers. They have a better perception and understanding as to what their own situation is, which is the good news. They're reaching out to us to try to get some support. So we're, as many colleges are, we're investing more in counseling support. We also, the Iowa Board of Department of Education came out with college and career transition counselors 2 years ago, where the state is incenting community colleges to hire counselors to go into the high school to help juniors and seniors plan their post-college career. Now, they're not to recruit for the community college, they're there to help students. And so getting more of them to take FAFSA, because many of our students are in financial need. And a lot of it is the world is so confusing. We are getting inundated by so many messages for medications and politicians and everything else. I think people just don't know where to land to take that next step. So we're trying to we've created guided pathways throughout the Iowa community college system so that rather than a student trying to decide between 220 programs at DMAC, they can pick a pathway. We've got 10 pathways. So if you know you like healthcare, you could enter the healthcare pathway, take those general first term courses, and then as you go down the road, you can decide whether you want to be a rad tech, a respiratory therapist, a nurse, whatever. Again, and we're looking at our degree programs so that when a student starts with us, they have to take a course. It's a mandatory course, and we don't do many of them. It's just on the college experience. So their first term they come in, we want them to sit down in a small group with a faculty member or advisor and plan out their next 2 years. And if they're undecided, how they make those first steps. So this whole guided pathway movement, we believe, makes it easier for students to succeed. We're trying to make success harder than failure. But then again, it's also hard to communicate with these students because the vast majority of our students are working part-time or full-time while they're going to school. They got families, etc. So we're having to be more flexible than ever. But we've noted post-pandemic, I mean, when the pandemic hit and we've had a vibrant online program, everything went online. And now we've got about 80% of our students back face to face as we look. Only way you can tell is looking at parking lots. But it's we give them what they want. Many students found it much more convenient not to have to drive to campus. So we've got more students choosing to do the online route. But as with any business, we have to listen to our consumers. And the point is just to make sure we can get that communication across to them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, Christy, they were talking about getting into high schools, talking to students more, and I know you're deep into the concurrent enrollment idea. Like, can you talk a little bit about that explosion and what is behind that, what that looks like right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So not only in the state of Iowa, but across the nation, concurrent enrollment there's been a real strong movement. It allows our high school students to get a jump start on exploration around different career fields, but also really more importantly, helping them to understand what the differences are between high school and college and different expectations. And so it's really allowing our area high school students to build the confidence that they need to know that they can be successful. Also, they're finding out that all jobs, about 70% of all jobs after high school are going to require some sort of post-secondary training. So what you see in a lot of our concurrent enrollment programs are not just students taking liberal arts transfer courses, but they're really also able to drill into specific career classes. Most all of the community colleges have career academy programs that allow students to explore a set of courses in a specific major. And we really look at these classes and we make sure that they not only transfer to the community college, but again, that multiple pathway where if they know they want to go on to get a 4-year degree, maybe teaching as an example, they can, start taking those introductory classes. And so we have really good data now that shows that our students who are participating in concurrent enrollment are more likely to go on to college, and they're far more likely to be successful in college in their persistence and completion. So it's really, just at our institution alone, we have over 6,300 high school students enrolled each year and taking concurrent classes. So there's many benefits, but in the state of Iowa, our legislation really got behind this movement over 20 years ago. They help provide funding to the schools to offset the cost. And the reason why they do that is because since day one, they have seen this as a economic development, workforce development tool. So again, the more students we can get connected to higher ed learning, the more likely they are to go on, find a job where they're going to have a sustainable wage and be able to support themselves and their family and give back to society.
Yeah. Yeah, because so it sounds like, the students that you guys are reaching, that you are communicating with, do understand the value of a higher education, and they are taking advantage of it at a high school and a younger level. What do you think is going on then with the folks who aren't, with this drop in confidence? I mean, where is that coming from? And I mean, is it political or I mean, what are we seeing socially, behind that?
So I think Vanessa, at least two of the major forces here are sort of economics and finance on one side and politics and social issues on the other side. On the economic side, there's been a lot of discourse in the last couple of years about, no need to go to college. People do just fine without any higher education. Just go off, get a job, et cetera. And that certainly is true for a number of people who choose that path. And we certainly want folks to have that option. But what's getting lost in that narrative is these real benefits. Rob articulated some of them already. Just say a couple more things. The unemployment rate nationally for people with bachelor's degrees right now is 2%. People with just a high school diploma, the employment rate's twice that at 4.1%. A bachelor's degree from Mount Mercy, according to a group called the Center on Education and the Workforce, is worth $1.05 million over the course of a 40-year career compared to not going to college at all. But that can get lost in the noise, and all the turbulence around student loan debt repayment has just, I think, increased some anxiety. Now, I want to be clear, student loan debt is a real issue, something we need to manage. And again, we try to make our education as affordable as we can, but that's a factor. So that's part of it. But the social and political issues are out there as well. Our society, it's not news to anyone to say that our society is very polarized right now. And there are some views on the left that are very off-putting and can be seen as very divisive for a lot of people in the country. There are some views on the right that I think are also very off-putting and can be pretty disparaging of higher education. I think we're caught at times here in what I would just call a snowball fight, where we get into our two opposing camps, and you're either in my camp or you're the opponent, you're against me. And I think one of the key roles that higher education needs to play is to demonstrate that we can reclaim the center politically, that we welcome folks with different viewpoints. We certainly stand for something. We have our values, but we really are open. And so assuring both a welcoming community and freedom of expression, even on controversial topics, is a key part of what colleges and universities need to do. And I think we need to demonstrate, I think many of us already do demonstrate, but we need to double down on our commitment to saying both those things matter. And we insist on being open both to controversial ideas and to the range of students and employees who come to our institutions. So I think that's the work we need to do in higher education, is narrating value and narrating that balancing act between openness to ideas and support for people. I think that's critical work for us to do in this time when there's lots of discourse that can sort of push against those things.
And also I think we need to do a better job of getting the message out about affordability. I mean, I don't give the government, I don't pat on give the government a pat on the back very often. But what the governor and Department of Education, Iowa College Student Aid Commission, and others have done, and we've got an environment here in Iowa under Last Dollar Scholarship, for example. There are over 60 different career fields that before you take out a loan, the state will step in and pay your tuition. In 2 years, DMACC had 2,886 students draw down over 7.2 million in to pay their tuition for high demand jobs that lead to great compensation post graduation. And as I tell students, you go to work for nearly any company in Iowa, 99% of them have tuition reimbursement. So you get that 2-year degree, you go on, the company will usually pay you for your 4-year degree. But again, this is a message a lot of families are not hearing because they don't understand the process as we do. So we need to get more and better information out. And again, a lot of that's through the college and career transition counselors. We bring all of the high school counselors in from the 58 schools in our service area to talk to them about it so they can talk to the students. But it's a matter of messaging as much of anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and President Olson, you had kind of talked, I mean, it does feel like the campuses are having to constantly walk this fine line, between, like you said, creating a welcoming environment, and also meeting student needs in various ways. But I'm wondering, like, looking also at this sort of tradition of higher education and what has always been offered and what people maybe are still wanting in some form, that traditional experience versus this like new innovative, programming, flexibility, virtual, like, is that a challenge, kind of walking that line and trying to get faculty on board with walking that line and students and everything too?
Yeah. So I'll start on that, Vanessa, and I think it is a challenge, but I would also say we have a lot of faculty at Mount Mercy who've been very flexible, very responsive on this point. But the fact is, higher education needs to do another balancing act here, and that is to say, what is it that really matters, that still matters about what we do? And that quality, engaging learning and equipping students for careers is still vital. That hasn't changed. But the mode of delivery and the responsiveness to changing student needs has changed and has to change. I'll tell you, with our traditional undergraduates at Mount Mercy, and as we're looking to come together in this strategic combination with St. Ambrose University, we want to maintain that in-person core of the undergraduate experience, but we know we need to add some opportunities there for virtual courses, for more flexibility, et cetera. And so we're working hard to do both those things, to hold on to what it is that's really mattered about our kind of small private college experience, and at the same time, innovate and be flexible to make sure we can add in some of those, new delivery methods, new flexibility for students. And so we're trying to be aware of those points very sharply as we figure out our path forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, it sounds like a lot of what is being doubted and questioned, out in society, you guys are doing. You're addressing it, like you have all the programs in place, like, or you're looking at innovating and doing all this stuff. So I guess is it in part just about telling the story better, about sharing that message better and communication, do you think?
Or getting people to listen. I think we tell the story in many ways, but it's just to get our consumer in a position where they have the time to understand the process. And whether it's Mount Mercy, DMACC, Kirkwood, or any of the schools, it's a matter of simplifying our process to the point, and then getting someone to start the process. And we get a lot of inquiries every year, that we send in information, but unless we call and talk to them and just walk them through it, a lot of them just stop because again, it's hard to read through screens and screens of computer monitors to try to figure out what am I to do next. Just tell me what to do. And just like setting up the background for this presentation today, I had to get my assistant in. I got up and let her do it, and I had failed for several tries, and in seconds she had this up and running. But that could be because of my age. I will admit that.
No, I know, I know. Yeah, I do think, yeah, there's all sorts of hurdles out there to getting people to tune in, and really pay attention. And maybe this is a question for President Olson, but one thing that I've been noticing in terms of like spreading this message and communicating better is the change in sort of the communication around the price of education. We talk about the financial piece being part of what's being doubted and questioned, and a lot of private universities are repackaging their sort of sticker price of tuition so that people understand more clearly what they actually will pay. Can you talk a little bit about those changes that we're seeing?
Sure. I'm happy to do that, Vanessa. And I think that one of the things that is curious, but also I think understandable in a certain way is we find that a lot of our stakeholders certainly care about the published sticker price. They're also very focused on how much aid we're offering them. That aid comes from the federal government in the terms of Pell Grants, loans, et cetera. It certainly comes from Iowa, as Rob said, and we really value the Iowa tuition grant that makes college possible for so many of our students. But it also comes from the institution. And at Mount Mercy, that all our students receive some institutional aid. And on average, that aid is $20,000 or more for most of our undergraduates. So what is tough for us and what we've seen at some other places, there are a number of Iowa colleges who've done tuition resets, is the fact is you need to, if you make that reset, you do need to reduce the institutional aid you're offering. The sticker price remains generally in the same territory. We have not pursued that strategy in part because we hear again and again from parents and from students, I want to maximize the scholarships, the aid you're offering me, whether it's academic. In our case, as an NAI institution, we offer athletic scholarships as well. We offer music scholarships. So that's one of the complex pieces here is we know that sticker price matters, but we've also found the amount of aid we're able to award also offers. So that's also matters. So that's something we try to balance in our practice, but I'd be happy to have, my colleagues talk about those issues as well.
Chris, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, we also try to make sure we have multiple funding streams. I mean, we have a very robust foundation and scholarship option for our students. So, it's one thing, the tuition and fees and book costs, but the living expenses. So, we try to find ways to help with supplemental aid that can help offset those, living costs as well. They're working, students need reliable transportation, they need fuel. So we work really hard at trying to build out a variety of scholarship options. We've also gotten real creative with some of our area employers. There's such a shortage in the health field with nursing. We're doing some real creative things with some of the local hospitals to get some scholarships that allow some funding to help support those living expenses while students are in college and working. So it can be challenging, but there are funds available. We just have to help lead students to them. We've also really gotten after some other programs. Dr. Denson talked about the college and career transition counselors at Kirkwood. Through the COVID time and time of all the social injustice things that were going on, we really got refocused around the TRIO programs. We've had a TRIO program for a long time at Kirkwood, the Student Support Services, but we got real aggressive and we went after the talent search, the Educational Opportunity Center, as well as our Upward Bound Math Science TRIO program. So having those in place are also helping with some of those wraparound services as well to help students be successful while they're trying to finance their college, be successful, and work at the same time.
Yeah, and at DMAC, actually, right now we've got the lowest tuition fees in the state, and we hear from students that price is a factor. And I talked about the whole debt issue earlier. we give out about $2.4 million in scholarships from the foundation every year. And we've done the data that 20 students who receive a foundation award are 25% more likely to complete. And it's because of what Christy talked about, the life issues. We provide free DART bus transportation for our students. And that's whether they go to the grocery store or come to class. We've worked with the DART, which is our local bus line, again, trying to reduce every reason that says I can't go forward. I mean, we're trying to help students in every way. And of course, then online is also a way that they save travel and other types of expenses. But and we also, Christy mentioned working with companies. Most of our students are working part-time or full-time. So we work with their employers to see what support we can get for those students, time to go to class, whatever. Amazon announced a free bachelor's degree to all of their associates. So we're providing education to the 1,500 Amazon workers in one of their fulfillment centers here in Central Iowa. A lot of our students are doing internships. We encourage them to do internships with companies in the area of their projected major. Not only is it good for them to meet up with companies and get acquainted with what they're like, but these students are better students when they come into the classroom because they understand what it's like out in the field in the career area they're heading. So I don't know what more any of us can do. And on top of all of this, we have phenomenally good articulation with all the private schools. I mean, Mount Mercy being very receptive for community college students that want to transfer. The Regent universities are the same. But I think, as Todd mentioned earlier, we've got this enrollment cliff coming, but most of us saw enrollment increases this last year and this year. So I think the message is getting out there. So I think, yes, there's some disenchantment with higher ed, but most families and kids of all ages know that they're better off getting an education. So I think we've got a pretty narrow gap to jump to get them to actually do something. So I'm optimistic.
Yeah, no, that's great. And all of you have kind of mentioned this, but I thought I will just ask a little bit about the collaboration piece. It seems like that is happening so much just with private industry, with companies like you all mentioned, and then with the other colleges and universities and campuses. I mean, how big of a part or role do you think that's going to play in the future of higher education?
I can start off there, Vanessa, and I think it is absolutely essential that we think about collaboration. And at Mount Mercy, we've done that for a long time with our colleagues at the community colleges. Kirkwood has been top of that list, but DMAC, Eastern Iowa Community College, Hawkeye, and others also really matter. We're well connected. We've also connected with local healthcare. Both our major hospitals in Cedar Rapids have been great partners. We have formal connections with them. And then, as I think folks may know, we are entering this strategic combination with St. Ambrose University over in Davenport. That will give us a number of advantages. Certainly economies of scale, and that will matter in higher education because it is frankly tougher in this environment for smaller colleges to really prosper. And as we can become somewhat larger together, that'll be helpful. But more importantly than that, it will open up some new doorways for students at both institutions to move from undergrad degrees to the graduate degrees. And between us, we offer about 19 different graduate degrees. And we believe, to the point we were talking about earlier, we can help students move through those 2 degrees more quickly than if they were doing it at 2 disconnected institutions. Just an example, Mount Mercy has a great master's degree in nursing, and St. Ambrose has, like we do, great undergrad programs. We're opening up pathways for St. Ambrose senior undergrads to begin their master's degree during that senior year to reduce the time to completion, see that they're still getting all the same academic quality, but finishing those degrees sooner. And so we believe that together we can make the whole college experience more accessible, more affordable, reduce the time to completion, and still hold fast to this mission we talk about as Catholic institutions, open and welcoming to all students. We're in the business of student formation. that's something we're holding on to. We take that seriously. I know our colleagues across the state do as well. But that's what we're trying to do, is hold on to those things that are core to us. At the same time, we're innovating, we're taking some risks, we're trying some new things. And very often, now and in the future, that will need to take the form of collaboration and of partnerships.
Yeah, and I do think that a lot of people may think that we all compete against each other and that we're, cutthroat and all that. But just one example, in 2011, the 15 community colleges came together and created a funding formula, which is how we divide up the bucket of money that the state legislature gives us every year, to divide it up so that the smaller colleges receive more per student out of that pile of money or pot of money than the larger schools. And as of last year, DMAC received about $2,100 per student from the state. Iowa Lakes up north got $6,000. DMAC has a larger scale, a better economy of scale. So this past year, the community colleges asked the legislature to give us the ability to divide up the money annually as we think best. And this made national news. In most states, they sue each other over the distribution. But in Iowa, the 15 presidents sat down because it's in DMAC's best interest that Iowa Lakes, Northwest, Southwest, and the other smaller colleges, particularly and much more rural, we want them to be successful. The 15, we've each got a defined territory by legislation. We're each about the right size to serve the businesses, communities, parents, and kids in our area. So, and again, I can't tell you how many national journals talked about Iowa, that we could actually sit down together and divide up the money in a way that helped Iowans throughout the state. Again, we want everybody to be successful. And again, we need, and another point, in many states, the community colleges offer 4-year degrees. I was in Florida for 25 years, and most of the community colleges offer 4 years degrees there. When the issue came up in Iowa, we don't need to here. In Florida, the 11 universities didn't have space for transfer students. In Iowa, we've got a lot of capacity in our private college partners and our university partners. And again, the community colleges, we know what our work is, we're good at it, and we're going to focus on doing that and meeting the needs of all the higher education in the state.
Vanessa, can I just add one more thing real quick? So, I think at all levels of higher ed, we are really committed to collaborating, especially when we know there's a critical workforce shortage. So we know now that we are getting fewer and fewer students in the pipeline to become a teacher. So, and this is not only collaboration in higher ed, but with our K-12 partners as well. But we've worked with University of Northern Iowa, as well as University of Iowa College of Ed, where we've mapped out what we're degree in 3. So if you start in high school down this path, and oh, by the way, we've also been able to embed an apprenticeship piece to it so that students can have a school employer, pay their way through college. But we work together. When we find these shortages, we all come together and we find a way to make it work so that we're all doing the piece we can in our own levels of higher ed, or again, K-12. And, we're stronger than ever, I believe, as a larger institution of higher ed across the state.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have a couple of questions here from our audience. So I'll read one. One just asks how this large population of people who have some college but no degree fit into the current higher education landscape. Are those folks, that you guys are going after? Or
Yeah. I'm happy to start on that one, Vanessa, that we care very much about that population. And we know we've had degree completion programs at Mount Mercy, long called our advanced programs, and especially in business areas and nursing and education. And that market has shifted around over the years, but we know that matters. And as we talked about before, what we're seeing and what Rob's already amplified is we really need to make connections with people it's good to have a great website, and that's not without value, but what really matters in getting some of those people back into higher education is a sense that they can connect with a real person, talk about what the options are, and see a clear path that will lead them forward. So I will tell you, and I think my colleagues would probably agree, but in our market, much of that is about being out in the community, having conversations, giving these potential students a human face to connect with, and then articulating, here's what we have to offer, here's where we believe it can lead you. So that's a tremendously important population. I want to just add in part of the national discourse is, well, there are already too many people going to college. And I just want to refute that soundly. We know that our workforce needs very much more professionals, certainly in education, in nursing, and other healthcare fields. And so we want to be ready to make this transition for the folks with some college as smooth and as inviting as possible. Not only is it good for them, it's good. And in fact, it's vital for our communities and our state that we respond to these workforce needs.
Yeah, and we aggressively market to everyone that we know has some college but no degree. Again, because it's great for them to finish. It's good for their children to see them finishing. So that's just another population that we're trying to attract.
Yeah, I mean, one question I have actually on that front is why do we have a large population of people with some college and no degree? I mean, is it that they decided that the colleges weren't fulfilling their needs, or was it the finance piece of it, or just COVID? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
One example, our excuse me, our auto tech program has a 50% graduation rate. It's a 2-year program, and by the time students get at the end of their first year, they have sufficient skills that the auto dealers around here are working on them to get them to come to work, because the auto dealers need auto techs right now. So they go to work for Carl Chevrolet or Willis or Bob Brown or whatever. And really everybody's happy except me. The auto dealers are getting a worker. The worker's got a good job. Parents are probably happy. I don't get a completion, but I don't get paid for completions anyway. But we're just hoping that sooner or later they will come back to try to finish. But a lot of people, they get into a degree path, into a company, and they're happy and move on. So, but we're still talking to them.
Yeah, what I would add to that is, life happens for so many students. They have families they're supporting, or they've maybe had, just personal issues in their life that have, prevented them from completing, but in many ways they've had to work full time. And so they have stopped out. And then I'll circle back to what I said earlier about on and off ramps. We've got to make sure we've got these on and off ramps, because at some point they're going to have another life issue that's going to probably require that they do come back and finish, or they, find out they maybe have a, become, physically unable to do a certain career anymore. So they may have to be retrained because of that. And so life happens, and we need to be able to meet them where they're at and help them get back on, either finish what they started or get them onto a new path. And, part of the reason why at Kirkwood we did go after the TRIO Educational Opportunities Center grant is for this population who have some college. And let's not forget, we still have Iowans without a high school diploma. So we need to help catch them as well, because now that we're seeing a downturn in the workforce layoffs, you may need to come back and retrain now, and you have that opportunity to do so. So we just need to make sure we're always meeting students where they're at and providing what they need to get to the next step.
Yeah, absolutely. One of our viewers shared an article from the Lumina Foundation on this issue, on the lack of confidence, and the Lumina Foundation was involved in the Gallup poll. And one interesting nugget in here talks a little bit about how the poll found that Americans actually do really overwhelmingly understand the value and the importance of higher education and what it does to secure jobs and financing, but their trust in the institutions is what's declining. Like they get that they need a degree, they just don't trust the colleges and universities to deliver that. And in part, it's because of the tuition in a like a, what they say is like a misalignment with the labor force. I guess I'm wondering from you guys, it sounds like Kirkwood and DMAC and Mount Mercy and a lot of these institutions are partnering with the healthcare industry and the airline industry and all sorts of places to try to make sure that there is an alignment and that there is financing available and all this stuff. But do you feel like these doubts were ever valid? Do you feel like we're doing, I guess I'm asking, do you feel like we're doing a way better job today than we were 5 years ago? Did, you know what I'm saying? Or any of these doubts warranted?
Well, I think, at least on the community college level, every one of our programs has an advisory committee of the employers that hire students out of that program. So we are absolutely in lockstep with the industry we're teaching about. I mean, the equipment and technology and AI and everything move quickly. So we're on a flat out run, but we are teaching what the companies tell us they need today. And the biggest thing we have is to keep up with the curriculum because the businesses tell us what competencies they want, and then we need to deliver. And I think that's one of the successes that we've had. And this has been for decades. And it also gives all these businesses on our advisory committee kind of a heads up as to the students that are coming down the pipeline. So, I mean, it works very, very well.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, go ahead, President Olson. Were you gonna add something?
No, nope, just agreeing.
Yes, okay. Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I think I mean, we're running a little bit close to the end of our session here. But I wanted to allow each of you to kind of, we talk about the importance of sharing the story and the value of the education. You've done that to some degree, but looking forward, I mean, obviously, President Olson, you have a big change coming up, with your collaboration with St. Ambrose. Can you all share your vision for where you would like to see higher education going to best meet the needs of students in the state of Iowa?
I can
Well,
go
yeah,
first.
Chrissy,
I'm
you
happy
lead
to,
this time.
yeah, I'm
Yep.
happy to step in there. I work in the world of working to support our K-12 partners. And so I think now more than ever, we need to make sure that our high school graduates are coming out with more than just a high school diploma. If they can have some credit under their belt, but a certification of some sort that allows them to go to work while they're continuing on with their higher ed is very important. So the sooner we can get our K-12 students connected to employers and career opportunities, I think they're going to be much more successful and more embracing of higher ed and getting that final degree that they need to be successful in their career path.
And Christy's spot on. I just came back from a National Security Agency conference on cybersecurity, and they spent a whole day talking about how do we get middle schoolers some kind of understanding as to what cybersecurity is, so that they can begin to think about it as they move through high school and into college. So everybody's looking at those younger and younger groups, and Christy also mentioned those without high school degrees. It's surprising the number of students who have dropped out at one point of time. We work with all of our area high schools on their dropout recovery programs, but still, it's called HiSET is the program we take students through. It's similar to a GED, but the important thing is that they're coming back to do it. They realize that they've got a deficiency, that their lives would be better if they finished at least a high school degree, and most of them will then move on to some kind of college classes because we've had the time to work with them to explain, here's what your options are, and here's how you can pay for it. I mean, most times it's no out-of-pocket cost. It's just the time it takes to finish.
That's great. I'll take a little different tack here and just think about as both for my own views as an educator and then for our shared work together with St. Ambrose and with President Amy Novak over there. I think the commitment we need to make and the direction we need to go is we need to take our students seriously. Certainly goes for their parents as well, but what are they interested in? What do they need? Where are they? How can we equip them in all sorts of ways that are very career focused, but also focused on being thoughtful, contributing citizens? Secondly, we need to take our mission seriously. And Mount Mercy, as a Catholic and Mercy institution, is a special place. Again, we're welcoming to all students, but there's this, the Sisters of Mercy founded this place with great hard work and vision 100 years ago. There's something worth keeping about the particular approach to educating young people and adult learners that they started. So we've got to take that seriously as we go forward. And thirdly, we need to take our communities and our state seriously. So it's being attentive to all those stakeholders, making sure in that last case that we're attentive to what the workforce needs are, what the needs for citizens in our community, for volunteers with all our wonderful nonprofits are. We've got to be a contributor to the quality of community life as well as the quality of the economy in Cedar Rapids and in Iowa. So that's what I'm excited about is we have this opportunity in this time of turbulence and change to be the most responsive and principled and ambitious that we can be. That's what gets me up in the morning.
Yeah, awesome. Well, you guys are great. I'm so appreciative of you being here and sharing your thoughts. We've got just a few minutes to go, and I'm like in my head debating between two questions that I still wanted to ask you. So maybe I'll ask them both. They're not really related, and then you can just jump in and decide to answer whichever you want. But one, I am really curious about this artificial intelligence, this AI space, and what role that may play going forward. And then I also kind of wanted to ask whether you guys were worried about the enrollment cliff and that sort of being aggravated by any perceptions that people have.
Just quickly on the AI side, DMAC was just recognized by the Intel Corporation as an AI for the Workforce College, first one in the state. They provided, and there are about 100 nationally, schools that are AI for the workforce colleges. They provided us a curriculum. They're providing mentoring. We opened up our first non-credit course starting next week. 24 students filled up in record time because everyone's asking, what is AI and what do I need? Companies are telling us they want students to come out of DMAC with some AI competencies. And again, but nobody really knows what that is because there are so many different things out there. So I think you're going to see even a lot more on AI in the next few months.
We need to embrace it. It's here. It's coming. There's good and bad with AI. But as an institution of higher ed, we have a responsibility of making sure that our faculty, students, and staff understand how to use it. That we need to make sure we understand how our employers are using it so we can embed it within our curriculum and our programs. But it's here and we need to embrace it.
Yep.
Just a short point I'll add there from all my experience in higher ed, as technology continues to zoom forward, what I've heard over and over again, seen from corporate leaders too, is our technical capabilities move much faster than our ability to sort through the ethical questions that go with them. And we've got to be prepared in higher education to raise those ethical questions, to take those seriously as well. Just to be sort of crass about it, just because we can do something doesn't always mean we should do something. And thinking through what are the ethical principles behind this that we need to be attentive to. So that's just one point I'd throw in there.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, I think that is brings us to the end of our time, but thank you guys so much for your thoughts. Thanks for everyone for listening in to this super important issue and discussion. And just check the agenda and jump on whatever session you want to next. Thanks again, everyone.
Thanks, Vanessa.
Thank you, Vanessa.